I've been brought up in a small city called Dehradun, and there wasn't flat culture back then. And everybody had a little garden in front, there was a little backyard.
But when I shifted to Delhi, I realized that's not a house I can afford. I wanted to, own my own house for as long as I can remember.
Since I'm a daughter of a banker, so yes, investment was very important for me.
So when my salary reached a point where I could afford a home loan, the very first thing that came to my mind was invest in a house.
There were a couple of factors that were like absolutely non-negotiable for me. So obviously cost, but apart from that, security, location, and also a few other things like, maybe a gym, a pool.
Making the decision to buy a home was easy, but that's when the real work started.
So I explored it online. I physically, I visited sites and it was tough.
Because for most people, buying a home is a one-time thing. So, you really want to make sure that you're investing your money in the right place.
When I decided to buy a house, I was already married. And a lot of people had questioned my decision, saying, why do we need two separate houses? But I was quite clear that I wanted something that I own. So I think the reason why we see so many more women home buyers today is possibly because A, we have far more financial freedom, and also this is something that we are aspiring to. We want our own space.
My father was very proud of me because when he bought his first home, he was 45, 50. And I've done it at 28.
So yeah, it definitely means a lot to me for sure.
According to a recent report, women today contribute nearly 74% of real estate buying decisions. This includes 32% of single women buyers across the top 8 cities. Even beyond the numbers, women home buyers are equipped with certain benefits when they apply to buy property, including better loan eligibility, lower interest rates, stamp duty waivers, lower property taxes, and more. And finally, women are not just buying homes to live in, they're also investing in real estate. In a recent survey by Anarock, nearly 42% of the total women respondents preferred real estate as an investment asset class, followed by 30% for fixed deposits and a mere 17% for gold. A very warm welcome to another episode of UrbaNext, the Future of Living, a BQ original series presented by Purvankara. This episode is dedicated to women home buyers and how the industry is shaping up to accommodate this considerable demographic. Thank you both for joining me. You run a very large and prominent real estate company, Amanda, and Hansi, I know you're a very prominent financial consultant to those who are taking important life decisions on where to put their money. Amanda, you've been running a real estate company for a while. What is the sense that you get? Are more women buying houses? Is it something that is an outcome of empowerment, financial empowerment, or some other kind of, or are there other reasons that go in?
So what's worth noting is that women have always been decision makers when it comes to buying a home. And I think just the whole wave of women empowerment and women gaining more financial stability and wanting to make their money grow for them or work for them in that sense, that women are feeling a little more confident or likely to put their money down and actually go ahead and buy a home. So there is an increase that we can see in the number of home buyers that are women, or at least they are doing joint purchases with a male member.
Hansi, this is a very important decision when it comes to buying a house. Between men and women, in your own experience, men obviously, at least the data shows that tend to drive that decision when it comes to signing it, maybe even taking the loan 80% of the time almost, at least in high value homes, and maybe in low value homes the percentage is low. But what can tip this? Why is it that when it comes to homes, there is a gap between, let's say, as opposed to other financial instruments or general savings?
So I think there's a bunch of issues that are going on. One is, I guess, that women don't earn as much. Not many of them work. So there's an issue there that they have to earn money to be able to buy a home. Then there's inheritance laws. Someone recently told me that more than 50% of all the court cases outstanding are property related. Right? So there's a huge issue, right?
Do real estate developers, including yourself, do you target women in your communication?
So it's my personal endeavor that Puravankara and Provident are the first choice or the first place women home buyers come to buy a home. So with that in mind, we have several initiatives that we have started. And one of that is My Pink Homes, which is basically a portal online that has curated a bunch of properties that we have realized through research that women are more likely to go toward. We've just realized that women are more likely to buy a home which is 2-bedroom, secure gated communities, good connectivity, social infrastructure. So in order to help women, we have created this portal wherein it's curated for their experience. I think with the government and even just other financial institutions have made it easier for women to borrow. There are discounts on home loan interest rates.
Do you feel that all this is helping women come forth and take the first lead in buying their house?
Definitely. I do feel like women do want to take charge of their life.
Yeah.
Even if they are buying property and things like that, they do want to own it themselves. I think it's just like this whole wave.
So we are seeing that clear mindset shift and the desire to take charge.
And I think even in the media that we consume, right, we are pushing women to like get out of your comfort zone. It's all right, try this, do that, do this for yourself.
Can I just add to that? I think in terms of the basic needs, right, the needs that anyone has is obviously food, clothing, housing. And food you can't store that much, and clothing you can buy as well, but for which money is good. Housing is one that appeals to that whole emotional thing, as she said, that ki apna ghar hota types. So I think it does appeal, and therefore it does make sense.
If you were to buy today, or would you suggest that you buy today? And if so, then what should you be looking out for?
So if you're going to buy a home for you to live in, I think these are a few questions that every woman should ask herself. Am I going to be able to afford the mortgage and all the other costs that come with it? Am I going to feel safe in this area, on this property? Does this property or does the social infrastructure around this property support my lifestyle? Is it somewhere I can see myself living? And what happens if there's a life change and I have to move?
Real estate is a very local sort of thing. So when you say today, you still need to kind of say which city, which country, which locality, with what amenities, at what price. And even then, it might well be that my whole suburb is overvalued, but I've come across a distress sale, right? In which case I'll buy it. So I think what we need to give women maybe is tools to figure out how to assess valuation.
Hansi, as you do that, any red flags that one should think of? Because we did talk about when you're buying a house, particularly if you're young, this is a long-term investment that you're making. Anything that you need to be careful about at that point?
I agree with Amanda in terms of having a different sort of criteria for if you're living there. So their safety, location, amenities, all of that stuff comes into play. I'd say make sure you don't overpay for that. So I would still recommend looking at valuation, although you make some leeway. But when you come to making a purchase for an investment purpose, I agree buying outside the city and stuff would be a good idea, but then realize it's high risk, high return. Because things may not quite pan out the way you think. So make sure that you build in enough margin that you can actually get that extra return.
It's very clear that as a country, we need more empowerment in women. When it comes to empowerment, owning property for anyone is very critical. We need to encourage women to take that decision, and I think more importantly, earlier on in life. And the tools to do that, whether it's the financial tools or the emotional tools, already exist. The reason to do this also, I think, is pretty clear. As you've said, it's an early leverage. The infrastructure to do that is also clearly there and clearly getting better, including online access and the fact that property developers are making it easier. So there are maybe very few reasons left now not to take that decision, right? And therefore the earlier you take it, the better. Anything that both of you want to add as to why that decision should come first and why you would recommend it? I
think there is nothing more empowering than just having your own home to go to. It is an asset. It's more than brick and mortar, right? It is the ultimate feeling of empowerment and security, and I think that every woman should seriously consider it.
And it's also getting more affordable. That's also a critical point.
It's getting affordable all round. Exactly, it's getting affordable all round. There's government schemes, like banks are helping. I think every real estate developer is going to realize that this is a target audience that hasn't been tapped into.
I think women have been traditionally given gold jewelry in sort of most part of India, and then we've been taught to expect that diamond ring when we get married. I think real estate is the next step for them. Fixed deposits and real estate, partly, like I said, because they understand it's tangible, it's less maybe intimidating than financial instruments because they understand it. They know how to rent it out and stuff like that. So I think real estate definitely is the step above jewelry. I do recommend that they should buy financial instruments as well, but real estate is part of any diversified portfolio. So yeah, I totally agree. I think it's that feeling of kind of apna ghar is obviously good, but they should have a well-diversified portfolio.
So we're basically saying real estate is the new diamond ring.
Oh, that's
it is. Yes,
and that's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you both for
Thank you so much.
joining me here today.
Thank
you so
you.
much.